Selvin Award is presented to the WGAW member whose script best embodies the spirit of the constitutional and civil rights and liberties which are indispensable to the survival of free writers everywhere. So just because of the current political climate we're in, let me say that again. The survival of free writers everywhere. And with respect to all of the winners here this evening, I can think of no more important award to bestow upon a writer in this country right now, and I can think of no one more deserving than my dear friend, Susannah Grant. Susannah Grant wrote Confirmation, a film about the confirmation hearings for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill in the role that she played in those hearings. When I saw the documentary Anita, I knew that I wanted to be a part of making that documentary into a film. I wanted to create a narrative piece about all of the moments that didn't happen on screen in the documentary. I wanted to honor the courageous history of Anita Hill and the legacy of women's rights and workplace rights that were heralded by her refusal to be silent. I wanted to remind myself and others of her brave act to participate in her democracy in defense of this republic and what it stands for. But also, I didn't want to make a propaganda film. I grew up in a household where my father, an African-American man who had faced a lifelong journey of prejudice, he felt intense compassion for Thomas and anger toward the congressional process that seemed to attack Thomas's reputation and his dignity. So I thought, how in the world, if I got lucky enough to be a part of this film, how could I be part of a film that was a compassionate exploration but still had a solid point of view? Who could make that happen? Enter Susannah Grant. I heard a rumor that Susannah was interested in the documentary also and that she wanted to make the movie. I stalked her. I raced toward the opportunity. I knew that this woman who I had been a fan of from afar for a very long time would be the only person who could make this film happen. I knew that if anyone could figure it out, she could. And then I had the privilege to watch it happen, to watch Susannah spin magic. I watched her do endless research. She read every transcript, every book by all the different players. She interviewed reporters, she interviewed senators, she interviewed Anita Hill herself. She tried to interview Clarence Thomas. She did all of the footwork. She worked tirelessly and endlessly, and what emerged was a script that people tell me almost every day, either in person or on social media, has changed their lives. A film that has educated people and inspired people. She sat in rooms with all of us as we vomited our memories and our desires and our feelings about this intense moment in American history, and she wove it together, all of these issues of gender and sex and race and power and politics, into a narrative that is transformative. I will forever be indebted to Susannah Grant for allowing me to play the role of a lifetime. I am forever indebted to you for giving me a chance to play a different woman in Washington, D.C., a woman who's unlike Olivia Pope in every way, but who is in some ways much, much, much more courageous. But the true hero of the film, I think, is something that Susannah created. The true hero of the film is these ringing telephones. In our film, there's a moment when all of the phones start to ring in the Senate offices. Those phones are phone calls from American citizens desperately fighting for their republic, people whose voices require themselves to be heard. This is our country at work. And those phone calls were a reminder to everyone who sees the film that every single person in Washington works for us. Susannah, I adore you. I did not know that in the making of this film I would have a friend. You are a role model in every way, as a wife, as a mother, as a business person, as an artist, as a team worker, as a courageous warrior for excellence. And so it makes sense that your script for Confirmation, in its own dramatic, breathtaking way, not only tells the story of how Supreme Court nomination of Clarence Thomas turned into a landmark moment for women who dare to speak out about sexual harassment, but also for anyone who stands up to the system and speaks out against the abuse of power. I'm so grateful to you for what you've given me and for what you've given this industry and for what you give audiences. I am honored to present the 2017 Paul Selvin Award to you, my friend, the wonderfully talented Susannah Grant.
Let me just say, Aaron Sorkin is right. When you find an actor you love working with who makes your work better every time she engages with it, you never want to let her go. So, Kerry, you are that person, and I hope we have a long, happy life together. I'm honored to be getting this, of course, but I want to say what makes me prouder is to be part of an organization that makes a commitment year after year to honor the defense of civil liberties. I'm getting it this year, but we do it every year. And that's always important, but sometimes it's very, very important. And now is one of those times. I want to thank HBO, because they seem to be the only shop in town that is consistently making movies about American politics. And it's really important that we look at ourselves carefully. And wait, I had one more thing I wanted to say. Oh, I know. I wanted to say these hearings wouldn't have happened at all if it weren't for two essential institutions. And one is the free press. Nobody would have known that Anita Hill had lodged a complaint of sexual harassment against our Supreme Court nominee if it were not for our free press. And second, I want to reiterate what Kerry said, which is that the other essential ingredient is the public, the American public. They stood up, they did their jobs, they demanded that this issue, which was not a small issue, it was a large issue, it affected many, many people, and they demanded that our representatives give it the attention it deserved. And we should never undervalue the power of that and use it whenever we need to, like now. Thank you very much. It's really an honor.